Well, I'm certainly not awake yet. This is the after action report on the crossbow that I've been working towards getting it to shoot 300 yards. Wow, that was a tricky bit of linguistics. And this is actually the bow from it. And what I did was I just took it off. Because it's so big, it takes up so much space in the house, converted it back to a longbow. And as you can see from after shooting it, no string follow whatsoever. So I wasn't overstressing it. Analyzing it, and this has to do with something that I'm going to get into. No Kreisling. This was not being overstressed in any way. This white ash bow with 1.5 layers of sinew. I have one layer going from the edge across to the other edge, and then a center bit of sinew going through it. Let's just call it 1.5 layers. You know, performed really well. The sinew isn't cured all the way. I only let it dry for about a week and a half before I started shooting it, which I wouldn't recommend doing it at home because you want to give the sinew every advantage. Let it cure longer. This was dried sinew but not cured sinew. Okay, so on my longest shot, well, I shot more than 2 bolts yesterday, but the ones that I filmed, the one was 200 and, gosh, numbers trip me up. I was that guy in calculus class that, 2 + 2 = 2, but, I did everything else right. So understanding the concepts, so just basic arithmetic, trips me up, although I understand the concepts beyond that. Anyway, the longest shot was 285 yards. The one before that was less. And I definitely think because I wasn't holding that thing right, when I loosed the bolt, it recoils, and this thing actually does recoil hard enough that when I'm not holding it tight and I'm too close to the bolt clip, it'll bruise my face. This thing is like shooting my Mosin Nagant, believe it or not. It has a lot of kickback, and so by gripping it tightly and not getting that kickback, I was able to get more yardage, the 285 yard shot. Now Ryan, good point, Ryan was wondering, did I lash the bow itself to the stock, the tiller, tight enough? I might have lost some energy in that. We're talking percentages. 285 yards to 300, I just needed to shoot it 5% further, which isn't much. Possible I could use some longer cordage and thicker cordage and have it mounted more firmly, and that might be, a couple percent, a couple yards more. But if you notice, it wasn't braced hardly any more than it is now. The reason being is that the sinew isn't cured all the way, so I didn't want to stress it that much more. If I had braced it at 3 inches, which would have been probably significant, not enough by this standard, but definitely long enough by crossbow standards, I would have had a higher draw weight when it was cocked. Yes, I would have lost a little bit on the push stroke, but really, if you have like 10 pounds of pull, just like right here, that's not significant. So I probably could have squeaked out that 15% or 5%, a mere 5%, and shot over 300 yards if this was braced to where it should be. So I'm looking forward to that once this is fully cured. At this point, it's a game of inches. 5% away from shooting 300. My impressions is, first of all, I'm not using lightweight flight bolts, and so this is a rather muscular unit. This is, a hardcore crossbow, and it's not just for flight using, 115 grain flight arrows with parchment for flights. It's a realistic unit. A number of foot-pounds of energy going into my bolts, I can't calculate that unless I had a chronograph and knew how fast they were leaving. How much energy is going into that bolt so I can compare it to other systems. I would need the chronograph. I figure with my bolts, if I'm shooting at 180 feet per second right from the muzzle, It's about 60 foot-pounds, and so that's sizable. It's, you know, a lot lower than a modern compound bow, but they're shooting, you know, at 380 to 450 feet per second. It's a totally different thing. Now, as far as longbow flight shooting, when you see self-bow, longbow records, there's one 486 yards, I think it is, with a U. Physically lighter, and so they had the advantage with that, pound per pound, and, you know, I have to give up the advantage to you, you know, over white ash. But, you know, this, whether or not it's mounted on a crossbow or it's a longbow, being able to shoot 300 yards with a longbow is pretty darn good. So I'm quite pleased with myself. Do have a nice spiffy handle on that. You know, I'm not gonna tell you a falsehood. I'm not gonna to weave a fairy tale. There's no way I could draw this bow. Even if I could, it would wreck me. This is over 100 pounds. It can take a 32.5 inch draw length, maybe an inch or two less if it was braced, but that's really respectable for, you know, a white ash longbow. And with that, I better drink my tea. I quit coffee. I don't know why. Didn't really have a reason. I'm just drinking gobs of green tea. Getting my head in the game, the transition from bow making and such to getting this preserve in line. We're backed up a little bit because of the snow, but we can do it. Project today, if you're interested, even if you're not, I'm going to throw it out there. The giant wheelbarrow with the custom wood box, plywood box that I used to spread the bark, you've seen, you know, if you've been following me. I am going to build a second one with dual wheels. Today I'm going to go out and get a two-wheeled wheelbarrow and build a custom box for it. Hopefully it'll sink into the soft earth less than a single-wheeled one, which will make it pushing easier, and plus I won't have the issue of balancing it. I'm really good at that single-wheeled wheelbarrow, but, you know, I'm going to see if having a two-wheeled one will be a little easier on me when I spread that bark. This really is a nice bow. And this is a little test. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully you can. 3, 1 there. This is your test to figure out what I wrote there. And it's a simple translation. It's just English to runes. And then that one, little screenshot. Snap, snap. Little joke. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Snake River stick bow. Yeah. You know, he mentioned fast flight. That 5% could probably be easy taken up by fast flight string, or even a B55. This is B50. B55 would probably give me that 5%. And certainly, what do you call it? Constant loop string instead of like a twisted 2-ply reverse would certainly give me that 5%. That's all. John signing off. A little view of, so nice. Have a good one, everyone.